Hi guys, welcome to my channel. In today's tutorial, I'll be learning how to make this beautiful circle backless dress. If it's something you're interested in, let's get to it. So I'll be using paper to do the first illustration. So the first thing you are going to do is to fold this paper into a bias form, that is into a triangular shape, just this way. Just see the way I folded it. Yes, you fold it into a bias form. After folding it this way, the next thing you're going to do is to input the back measurement you are using. That is the shoulder measurement you are using. So for instance, for this person, I'm using a shoulder measurement of 15 inches. So 15 divided by 2 is going to give me 7.5. I'm going to add 1 inch for joining allowance at the side. So you're going to locate where exactly you're going to get 8.5 on this. So where that 8.5 is, I'm going to mark it. That's where 8.5 is. But for a bias shape, you can never have a straight line. So at that folded part, you're going to come up by 1 inch, 1.5 or 2 inches, depending on how deep you want that closed part to be, that center part. So for this one, I'm going to be coming up by 1.5 inch or 1 inch. So here I came up by 1 inch. Then connected it back to that line to give me not not even a straight line. It's not going to give you a straight line, but it's not going to be so deep at that center when we open it up. So that the new line I made now is the line we are following. So from that line, I'm going to mark 1.5 inch. That is going to serve as the casing for the rope in front. So connect that together too. So that now is our rope casing. So that line is the new line we are following, because the other rope casing will be folded in. The next thing is to take the full length of the person, to input the full length. So, but when you are inputting the full length, you're going to be removing 3 inches up. You're going to move up the triple by 3 inches and place it on that second line, the new line I said we are following, just this way. Where my hand is where we are starting from, measuring out. That's where the 3 inches is stopping. That's the neck depth. So measure the length. So I'm using 16 here because this paper cannot take more than 16 inches. I'm just using this to explain. You will see it on the fabric also when I'm cutting it. So you connect it together. And this is our front pattern. So I'll be using this same paper to explain our back pattern. So imagine you have cut this front pattern twice. So the second one now is the back. So on this for the back, you're going to measure the person's back length, the person's back half length, what the person wants to use for the depth of the back, how low the person wants the back to be. My client's own is 15 inches, but I cannot use 15 inches here because the full length of this paper is already 16. So I'm going to be going with 10 inches. I'm going to be assuming that the back measurement you are using is 10 inches. So I'll be putting 10 inches. The same way I left 3 inches in front is still the same way we are leaving 3 inches at the back. So I'm going to connect that. So that is our back. You can see this is not a straight line. So to eliminate the dip, for this tie, it's usually, if you look at the center and the back, you'll see that there's usually a curved shape at that back side. So if you want it to be, depending on how low you want it to be, you can just leave it without adjusting the dip at the center. But if you want it, if you want to reduce the deepness, if you want to reduce it, you can just come up by 1 inch or 1.5. Or if you want to eliminate it, you can just go up by 2 inches at this center point. Don't forget this is the folded part. So I'll connect it back. I'm just trying to eliminate the dip at that center. Not eliminate, just reduce it. So from there again, I'm going to be measuring 1.5. That 1.5 is going to serve as the casing for the elastic. So that's our elastic casing for the back. And that's the rope casing for the front. So in one paper, I have both the front pattern and the back pattern. So I'll cut it out for us to see. So I've opened it up. You can see the dip I'm talking about. Even after coming up by 1 inch, you can still giving that V shape, that dip at the center. That's the same way it's going to be at the back if I cut the back out. So if you want to eliminate it completely, you can just go by 2 inches at that center. If you're trying to manage your fabric, you can just fold it this way, folding away the front, then place it on your fabric and use it to cut the back instead of cutting the front pattern twice. That's if you're managing your fabric. So this is basically the pattern we are using. I only use the paper to explain so that you can see it, just in case the chalk is not showing so well on the fabric. This paper will give you a better clarity. This is the casing. So it will be folded inside. You can see the line is starting from the second one. That is what we are going to be using. Yes, it's going to be folded inside as the casing for the rope. So now let's get to the fabric. For this, I'll be using a very soft crepe material. This is a soft crepe material. So we'll just fold it in the bias form as I explained earlier. Then measure it back, the person's back measurement. For this, I'm using a back measurement of 15 inches. Divided by 2, it give me 7.5 plus 1 inch for sewing allowance. So that's what I'm going to input on this. So that's where I'm going to be getting 8.5. I'm going to mark it. As I said earlier, you cannot have a straight line on the bias form. There's going to be a dip at the center. So to either reduce the dip or eliminate it, whichever one you want, you're going to come up at that center by 1 inch, 1.5 or 2 inches, depending on what exactly you want. In this case, I'm going to be coming up by 1 inch. I used 1.5 here. So you mark that 1.5 and connect it back to the main line you drew earlier. So from that new line now, I'm going to be measuring 1.5 down. That will serve as the rope casing for the front. So this second line I'm doing now is our starting point. So from there, I'm going to measure out the length, the desired length for this style, for this particular customer. So I'm going to leave out 3 inches. That's going to, I said that is the neck depth. I folded in the casing. So this is the new line, so that you can understand what I'm saying. So I've left out 3 inches before measuring the length. So you can see the starting point of my fabric is 3 inches on the tape roll. And the person's length I'm working with is 38 inches. I'm going to add 1 inch. That's for aiming. So I'm going to be measuring out 39 inches. Leaving out the 3 inches on top for the neck depth. The camera cannot cover up the fabric completely, but that's what I've just explained now. So from that 3 inches, I'm going to measure 39 inches. What you'll be inputting is what your client's or your own measurement. For this person, our own is 39 inches and I'm inputting that. The exact length is 38 inches. I only added 1 inch extra for aiming allowance at the bottom part of the fabric. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to show us on this particular one how to cut the back. So I said earlier that we're going to cut the pattern of the front pieces twice, then chip out the back from it. But if you're managing your fabric, I have told you exactly how to go about it. So for this person's back measurement, our half length for back is 15 inches. I can decide to add 1.5 or 2 inches to it just to make it a bit lower at the back if you want it to be very low. But if not, that person's half length is just fine, which is 16 inches. For this person, back half length is 16 inches. So that's exactly what I'll be using. I'll be using 16 inches. So I'll mark 16 around. So just as I explained earlier that we can never have a straight line on a bias form. So if you don't want, for this particular style, the back is a bit deep at the center. But depending on how deep you want your own to be, for this one, I'll just eliminate like 1.5 from it or just 1 inch. You can try to leave it that way. You can leave the dip like that, or you can try to adjust it. Not totally. For this style, you don't need to eliminate it. You just reduce it and connect it back to the main line you drew earlier. I'm doing this for the sake of illustration. So from there, I'm going to measure out 1.5 inch. That will serve as the casing for the elastic. So this will be my casing for the elastic at the back. So now this is it, I've cut it out. So this is the back. And that's I'm putting in the elastic casing. So we are done cutting. So I'll see, that's the dip I was talking about. You can see it is still there, but it's not so deep because I've tried to remove 1.5 inches from it. So now the 1.5 I added, I'm going to fold it in, tape it in for the elastic casing. So now I've taped it. That's what we'll be passing in our elastic. So for the elastic, I'm going to be dividing the person's the person's waist measurement into two. So for this person, the person is using a waist measurement of 28 inches. I'll divide it into two, that'll be 14 inches. Then from the 14 inches, I'm going to be removing like 2 inches. You cannot use the exact because if you use that, it will be a bit loose at the back. So if you want it a bit firm, just remove like 2 or 3 inches, depending on how firm you want it to be at the back. So for this one, I removed 2 inches and I'm going to be inserting my elastic into that casing we made. So with the help of a safety pin, I'm going to be passing it through. When you are passing it through, you have to be careful because this is a short elastic. So you have to hold on to the tip of to the other end of the elastic so that it doesn't get lost into it when you are trying to pass it. You can see as I'm passing it, I'm holding on it onto the elastic. I don't want it to get lost in the casing. So now that you are done passing the elastic, you're going to secure it at both sides. I'm going to use pin to secure it at both ends. Then adjust, then spread the elastic equally. So this is it, I've passed the elastic. So I'm going to secure it at both sides with sewing machine. So I'll open up the front now. So I've opened up our front pattern and I'm going to place the back pattern on it, right side facing right side. Because I'm going to be joining it at both sides, joining the back to the front. I'm going to be joining it using 1 inch. That was what we added earlier as the sewing allowance. So I'll join 1 inch at both sides. Now I'm done joining both sides. I've joined the back to the front. So this front part that is left open, I'm going to tape it in using that 1 inch that we left earlier. So just going to fold it into half, then fold it again by half, then you stitch it all around. You stitch it down. Then the rope casing for the front also that we left 1.5 inch for, you're going to tape that in also for the rope. So I've gone ahead to do that. And I've sewn the rope. So for my rope, I just used 30 inches. I think 30 or 33 inches. So depending on how long or how short you want your rope to be. This 33 inches was just perfect. So if you want it longer, you can increase the length of your rope. So that's it. You can secure it at both sides after spreading it this way. Then I knot the ends of the rope. Then you stitch, if you want it to be in place, you stitch it down. You spread it evenly and stitch it down at both sides just to secure it. So once we are done with that, the next thing is just to tape the hem all around. So now I've taped the hem, and that's it, guys. We are done with making this mini dress. So I know from this you have learned one or two things. If you have any question, feel free to drop it in the comment section and I will answer it. Thanks for watching. If you are yet subscribed to this channel, subscribe for more tutorials. Bye.